Welcome back, casual collectors. I'm Steelwolf
and Spider Kid,
and today we're bringing you a review of our very first Star Wars the Black series, the Mandolorian and Grogu.
So we picked him up at Target for a price of $36.99, and he is a Target exclusive. Okay, now for box detail. The front is really cool. I like how you can see the figure, the guns, the pod, the child, and it looks like an egg. If we go to the side, we can see a really cool cover art, but if you look in the background, you can't see the monster that was fighting Mandalorian and child. It looks like the egg also. Now if we look to the back, we can see that same picture with a description of Mandalorian and Grogu. Go ahead and pause if you want to read right here. Now if we go to the side, all we can see is two poorly taped boxes and a little window. And we can also see the name Star Wars the Black series. Now if we look at the top, we can see another window that shows what you'll be getting also. Now if we look to the bottom, we can see a bunch of illegal stuff and the barcode here. So with all that said, I need a little help trying to find somebody. So I think I'll hire the Mandalorian to help us here.
Alright, here we have everything out of the package looking amazing. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at all the accessories first, and then we'll move on to the figure details. Okay, here we have all the accessories that come with the Mandalorian and Grogu. So let's go ahead and take a closer look, and let's go ahead and start with this egg here. So right away, I mean, wow, look at the detail on this guy. Man, you know, it definitely looks like the one that we saw on the show. That thing was all furry and weird looking, and this definitely mimics just that. Wow, that looks really cool. Now, one cool little detail that I didn't realize until Spider Kid mentioned it was that this guy actually opens. Oh, there we go. And wow, look at that. That is so cool. Now, if you guys recall in the show, when the Jawas get a hold of the egg, they pop it open and then they start feasting on this yellow goo inside. And look at that, we even have it in there. And there is some texture to it too, as you can see. That is cool. Very, very awesome. I love little touches like this. This reminds me of the Marvel legend Mobius from the Loki show, where they had his little data pad thing that opened up. Oh, I thought that was cool too, and I love little things like this. This is so cool. Definitely shows that they went the extra mile just to do something like this, because they sure as hell didn't have to. But that is cool. Kind of makes me want to get a Jawa now, just to have pictures with him eating this guy. Very awesome. Cool, cool accessory. Alright, moving on, let's go with this pram here. This is basically the baby carrier that Grogu rides in the whole time. I mean, sometimes we see him on his feet, but most of the time he's in this thing. Now, this is my first Mandalorian, so this is actually my first pram that I own, so I'm kind of psyched about this. I'm sure everyone else has seen multiple of these guys, but this is my first in-hand one. So here we have the peg hole for the invisible base here, which is right here. And this is very simple, but it gets the job done. That just ports right in there, and it gives it that illusion that it's actually hovering. So very neat that they included that. Moving on to details here, we get a lot of cool sculpt on the bottom here. I mean, look at all this cool detail. That's very awesome. And then we get some paint too, and if you can see, it's actually a little bit more reflective paint. Even this kind of like metal part right here, and these are more like your scuffs and scrapes, but man, they just added that silver right there and just in the right light. That looks so, so cool. Even over here, we have some wear and tear. That's awesome. Definitely makes it feel more authentic, like it's been through hell, you know, so that's awesome. We got some more of that scuffing here on top. That's so cool. Some more actual detail sculpt up here too, which shows the pram's, you know, top part here retracting back here. We don't get the additional piece to fully close it, but, you know, it's alright. This works. Love this little bit of yellow or orange that they put in here. That looks really cool. So yeah, just take a look at the inside. I mean, that looks amazing. We can see they use that silver paint there for those rods and those knobs. That looks cool. Then we got this black that was used, more like a shinier black, almost to mimic leather, but it's for the padding for the kid, or I should say the child. That's really neat, and that runs all the way to the front there. And then we got all this cool, subtle sculpt right here on the edges there. I mean, that is very, very neat. So cool. This little pram is awesome. Definitely is such a cool little item to add to my collection. Alright, moving on here. Let's go ahead and move over to Mando's handgun, or blaster pistol here. And this looks great. I mean, just take a look at all that detail. Holy cow. This always impresses me when they go so detailed on these little accessories. Very, very cool. Cool looking blaster. And then we definitely got the hole there for his finger, because he does have trigger fingers, so that's awesome. And then we have the handle here painted a brown. That looks great. Great paint apps.
And I was saying, if you didn't want to store it into the figure, you can. There's a little holster for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They definitely gave him his holster, and this guy does fit in there, which is also an awesome plus. Alright, so taking a closer look at this rifle, this guy's big. I mean, this guy is impressively big. He's almost as big as the figure, almost. But yeah, very, very awesome. The only issue I had, though, was this didn't peg in very well to the figure. I feel like the hole on the back needed to be deeper. You can still see some of the peg when you plug it in, so that was kind of a downer, but I mean, when it's on his back and he's facing forward, it looks amazing. And so we have this brownish paint here for the stock. That looks great. We have the trigger here, and it does have room for his finger, which is awesome. And then we got all this cool sculpted detail in the actual body of the rifle here. That looks great. Moving farther down, they went with a different kind of color versus this silver here for the body. Now they went with this what kind of looks like a blackish, brownish kind of color, and that looks cool too for the barrel of it. And then they went back with a silver for the fork end of it, which is very, very cool. Would have been awesome if they gave us an accessory here or an effect here that kind of mimicked that lightning effect or that stun effect. I think that would have been cool, but it is what it is. And here we have the scope here on top, and that looks great. Definitely accurate to the show there, how it kind of moves to the side, so that's cool. Very cool. And that compensates for his helmet, because with the helmet on like that, you can't really look straight down the sight, so they got to put it to the side. So that's awesome that they did that. Looking closer here at the top of it, we can see that it kind of has little Picatinny rails right here. At least that's what it looks like. But this mechanism or chamber here is where the actual shells discharge after he fires a shot there. That is cool. Very neat. And here's the other side. And we do got some different details on this side. Very, very awesome. Cool weapon. Very iconic and very cool. Alright, moving on. And last but not least, we have the man himself, or the child himself, Grogu. Now, this Grogu here doesn't articulate like the standalone Black Series one that came with the little frog. It came with the little ball that was on the shifter of the ship, of Mando ship. So it's not the same one, and definitely the one to get would be that one. This one's cool, you know, he looks cool, but he doesn't, you know, move or anything. I mean, his hands can move subtly, if you can see here. So they're on like a little, maybe ball joint, what it might be. It might be a ball joint, not sure, but that's all that the hands do. This hand over here, basically, you know, it's in that position. You can't move the arm. But again, the hand does kind of hinge up and down, just slightly, and you can actually rotate the hand just a little bit too, so it does swivel. So something's better than nothing, I guess, you know. Now, as for the head sculpt here, he is basically closing his eyes. Now, I'm sure if you can tell there, it's very subtly sculpted, so you can definitely kind of get the illusion that they just didn't paint any eyeballs on him, but no, he's definitely has his eyes closed. And this is for that scene where all these accessories come to play in, where he uses the Force to levitate that horned beast. So that's really cool that they did that. But you can see some little bit of blush there on his cheeks. So that's a cool, nice little detail for paint. We also got a little bit more of a darker color of that right here on the ears on the inside. And then what's really cool though is that we kind of get some hair on top too. So if you can see that, I'm not sure if that's coming out very well on the camera there. It's coming out so subtly. There we go. That looks better. But yeah, you can see the hair on the head. So that's really, really cool detail. We also got a lot of sculpted lines for his robe here. That looks great. Looks all wrinkled up. That follows to the back there. We got his hood back here. That looks great too. And I don't know, does his head move? Let's see. It moves very slight. Oh, actually it does. It does move. So, okay. You can basically go left, go right. So that's not bad. It's something better than nothing. Now I wonder if we can pop the head of this guy and put it on the other Grogu, because that would be cool. That would give you an additional head sculpt with that better articulated Grogu. So that'd be cool. I guess something we'll have to try here pretty soon. Here's the bottom of the figure or accessory, and we just have his feet. And again, on the other Grogu, his feet actually move too, so that's why that one's a better option if you ask me. But the fact that this comes with this set versus you paying another $10 for the other one, you know, that might be a better option for you. But nonetheless, he is looking pretty cool. And that's all the accessories that come with the Mando and Grogu. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Mandalorian himself. Alright, and here we have the Mandalorian looking pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and start off with the helmet here, taking a closer look. Now right away, you're going to notice this visor has a bunch of this like splotchy or really, you know, splatter, what looks like splatter, but it's basically mud. And again, this guy is pulled from that scene where he enters the cave of the Horned Beast in order to obtain that egg. Now this looks okay, at least the visor. I like the way the visor came out, you know. It definitely looks like mud was splattered on his face. The only issue though is I feel that the rest of the figure doesn't do a good job to mimic mud. It just looks like he's brown, honestly. I mean, that's what it looks like to me, like he's just brown. They just changed the color scheme of him, just brown. Now see back here, this definitely looks better, because now you have like splotches of the original color of the cape mixed in with brown, which does give it the illusion that it could be dirty or that it's mud. That's definitely awesome. I just wish they would have done that on the front side of the figure, which again, it just looks like he's just brown. I mean, I guess there's some subtle touches of that here on the side, but other than that, it just looks like he's brown. So back to details, let's take a closer look here. So there you have that dirty visor, that's looking great. The rest of the helmet sculpted very nicely. Definitely pulls off that Mandalorian look. That looks great. And they went with this whole kind of like a matte color to this brown here. So, and that's all around the helmet there. Down to the cape right here, you can see there's the clasp of the cape. That looks good. It's got that sculpted detail, that looks great. All these wrinkles and lines on the cape look great. It even got this texture to it, so that looks great. It almost looks like linen, but I mean, that looks great. It looks really awesome. And that's sculpted all the way through. And here at the bottom, it looks like it's been torn and worn out a little bit. And it's made out of a softer rubber. And this is a very, very soft plastic, I should say, not rubber, but plastic. Very, very soft. Great sculpting lines. There's a different paint to make it look like it's dirty, so that looked good. Moving down to the chest area here, we see some of his armor. Now this is the Mandalorian before the Beskar armor. That's why it looks a little bit different. But this belt came out looking cool as heck. I mean, look at all the detail on that. Some buckles, and you got these canisters here, which I believe these are just extra ammunition for that rifle. That's what I believe it is. The belt is a separate piece, so it can kind of move up and down a little bit. So as you can see there, and the sculpt is followed through all the way. So I got all these different pieces here. That looks great. This armor is definitely not pretty. I mean, even when it was its original color, it wasn't that pretty, but hey, it works. And here on the shoulder pad here, we have more of a silverish kind of color for the pad here, and that looks great. Nice sculpt. This doesn't move up or down. It does seem like it is a separate piece, as you can see here. Kind of, it's a softer plastic. It's pretty attached to him, so. And it does go above this little spot here, so it won't get in the way too much of the articulation when you're trying to move the arm up there. Continuing on with the arm, we have a different shade here of a more like a grayish brown if you ask me, but that's what it kind of looks like. And we got some cool sculpt in there too, some sculpting for the clothes that he's wearing underneath, so that's great. For the gauntlet here on the forearm, this looks good too. Definitely looks like a gauntlet. There's sculpt in there. You got all these cool little details right there. That's awesome. For the top of the glove, we have that triangle piece. That looks good. It's definitely plated armor on top of there, so that looks great. And again, it's followed through with all that brownish mud color. Got trigger finger, so that's awesome. Moving back over this way here, let's go to the side. Again, this looks a little bit cleaner on the paint at least, you know? Not cleaner as in paint apps cleaner, but cleaner as in actually not as dirty as the front here. So it looks like the mud splattered him on this direction and kept all this nice and clean, at least a little bit of it. I just think that they didn't do enough of this on the front. And again, it doesn't look like mud too much to me. It looks just more like they just painted him brown. But moving down the line here, we have a different type of color for his shirt there. That looks good. This belt looks amazing too. I mean, look at all these cool little accessories. We got pouches, and these are those Mandalorian sticky bombs here. Those look great. Some more armor plating here for the sides. And then we have his holster. And yes, his gun can be placed in the holster. Absolutely amazing. Look at this. Just pops right in. That's freaking awesome. This just flips over to secure it. There we go. That looks cool. The fact that this actually fits in his holster is so freaking awesome. I love when they do this. That's cool. Moving on to the belt, to the side, we got some more little cool little accessories there on this belt. That looks great. On the back of the belt, there's not much on the back, but you can see texture, which does kind of give it that look of leather. Even on the shoulder strap here, on the cross shoulder strap, that looks cool. Yeah, some more little doodads and gizmos right here on the end there. There's the Mando butt. That looks great. Got more wrinkles back here. There's a crack on his ass right there. Down to these boots here. These boots look great too. I mean, we got this pouch right here. We got these knee pads. Those look great. I don't know what's going on with that knee pad, but it still looks cool. Got these cool little accessories here, which might be more ammunition. I'm not sure. The shins look good. Shin guards that he has. His feet there look good. Those look like boots. Bottom of the boots here, there's no treads, but we do have peg holes. And these are not on the typical heel. These are actually on the front of the foot. So I wonder if that's better than the heel ones, but I guess we'll find out. Look up here to the thighs here, we have these cool armor pieces right there on the thighs. Those look cool. They got sculpts telling that it's armor. That's awesome. There's the crotch. Same with the other arm here, but we do have a different gauntlet on this arm, as you can see. There are different details on this arm. Same plating for the other hand. That looks great. There's the bottom of that gauntlet. Not much on the inside there, as you can see. On this shoulder is actually dirtier than the other one. So you can see that's more clean and this is more dirty. So that's a cool, nice contrast there. Now, on this, going back to the back here, we can see that his armor is actually nice and clean back here, and it kind of gives it that leather look back here too. Now, the belt seems to align with the peg hole for the rifle itself, but I feel that the peg on the rifle was too long, or either that or the hole was not deep enough. So either or, but I just feel like it could have been deeper. There you have it. There's all the details on Mando. Alright, beginning with articulation on the Mandalorian here, let's go ahead and start with the head here. His head can turn left, it can turn right, can go completely around for that whole exorcist effect, and he can look up about that much. He can look down about that much. And can he do his little side to side here? Yeah, just a little bit, yeah. You know, you can move to the side there a little bit. You know, that's not bad. And can he do a forward pile driver here? Let's see. Just a tad bit of that quagmire motion there. Not too much of it. Moving down to the arms here, the arms can rotate a complete 360, and the good news is that the cape does not get in the way. As you can see, you can kind of move the cape around as you need it to. It can also move up about that much. That's unfortunately as much as you're going to get it to go, and it's basically because of this shoulder pad here. It gets in the way for sure. He doesn't have any butterfly joints. I mean, unless you consider these guys in their butterfly joints, but he can reach forward. That's as far forward as he's gonna go, so he can't really bring his arms together, you know, but you can if you just move the hands this way, and you can almost get kind of a crossed arm effect there, if you can see. So that's not bad at all. Moving down to the arms here, he has a single jointed elbow that goes in about that much, which is unfortunate. I really would have liked him to have had double elbows, but oh well, it is what it is. It's not too bad though. It could have been worse, so that's not bad. So moving on down here, we do have a forearm swivel here. His hand will swivel at the forearm and also will swivel at the bicep here. So that's kind of a double swivel joint kind of thing there. That's kind of neat. And then now for the hand does swivel around as well, assuming I can get it to swivel. Here we go, just like that. And it is on a hinge, and it goes in just like this. There you go, better shot of that. There you go, hand hinging, that's awesome. Cool, same thing on the other side of the arm. Same thing. So now moving down to the chest area here, he can turn the waist, as you can see there. This shoulder belt kind of gets in the way just a little bit, but the good thing, it's not attached to him where it's pegged in, so you can kind of maneuver it around so you can get those different types of poses. So he does swivel right at the waist there. Now he can ab crunch forward. Wow, not very much at all. That's the extent of it right there, which really isn't much. Now look at that. That's not really ab crunching at all. All right, you can crunch back about that much, which again isn't much at all. Moving down to the legs here, he can do the splits about that much there, and basically it's because of this holster and this pad here that get in the way of that. Now he can kick forward about that much, and he can kick back about that much. He does have double jointed knees, as you can see there, and that's as far back as they reach. So ankle's not necessarily touching the butt, but it's not that bad. Continuing on the legs here, he does have an upper thigh cut, as you can see here, which is great. Down to the boots, no boot swivel. We do get ankle pivot, and his foot can kick up about that much, and it can go down about that much. And that's going to do it for articulation. Alright, and to measure up Mando, he stands a little bit above the 6-inch mark, just by a little bit. And Grogu stands up to be a little bit above the 1-inch mark. Alright, and Grogu in his pram measures up to be just about a little bit under the 3.5 mark. Alright, so for size comparisons, here we have the Mandalorian and Grogu, next to the Star Wars Black series, Luke Skywalker and Yoda from The Empire Strikes Back. For another comparison, here we have the Star Wars Padawan Anakin, next to the Mandalorian and Grogu. Here's the Mandalorian and Grogu next to the Star Wars Black Series Archive, Obi-Wan. Alright, so final thoughts on the Mandalorian here. Figure-wise, great figure. I think his articulation is there. He's got a lot of cool movements. He doesn't feel too stiff, you know? He definitely feels like he can move and get into some cool poses. The only downside, though, was those single jointed elbows. Now, the thing about him, too, though, is accessories. Love all the accessories he comes with. The fact that you get a Grogu, a pram, you know, an invisible stand for the pram, his rifle, and his gun, and that egg, that is awesome. I couldn't have asked for more, so I am actually happy with the amount of accessories we got. Of course, that does come with the price point of the $36, which is still pretty hefty. Another cool thing was I loved how detailed they got with those accessories. The paint on the pram, the weathered detail, you know, that was awesome. The fact that that egg can pop the top to reveal the gooey yellow stuff inside was absolutely amazing. Thought that was so cool. Other than that, I do have to mention some negatives about this. And that's basically what we've kind of been hinting at from the beginning is the style they used for the mud effect. It just doesn't look like mud. It looks like they just made a different variant of Mando that is brown. I mean, the only indication that you get of mud or it being different dirt is on his side by his hips. There's some color contrast there on the cape itself and on the visor. That's the only indications you get that he's covered in mud. But other than that, it just looks like he was painted. Now, like Spider-Kid mentioned, they could have done all kinds of things to make it look like mud. They could have used a different type of brown. Maybe they could have used some splotches of mud. They could have probably used some different like 3D effect where it's a layered effect so that they can add texture to it, you know? I don't know. I just feel that that was not sufficient to give the effect that he's covered in that mud.
So for my final thoughts, I really like all the detail on it. But as I was saying it is that I don't really like how it's just all brown. It looks like I could have painted it simple enough. I do wish though is that, as I was saying, they could have sculpted it. But then it also kind of doesn't really do that much to it because there are some highlights around the armor pieces I can see like on the leg here. It's that it does kind of have that whole mud look to it. But one thing I do really want to complain about is that how to put on the rifle on his back. A good thing, for example, is the Bandai version of Mandalorian. The one is that you build. Now, I have this one myself, actually, and it's so easy to put on the rifle for him. But for this one, it's kind of hard. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the rifle doesn't really go that much in, and I guess it would make sense for looks and all, but if you wanted to make sure you can have it secure, you want it all the way in. Now, when me and Steve were trying to pose him, it sometimes would fall off out of nowhere, and we would never know.
Alright, it's that time again for our rating. So as always, you can see that rating on the left there. And I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a rating of
Great.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. This guy is cool, you know, he's awesome. The accessories, all definitely worthy of legendary. It's just that the paint apps, I gotta say, the paint apps, that's the biggest thing that took away for me, especially when you're basically trying to pass this guy off as being from that particular scene in the show where he fights the horned beast. So because of that, I felt that they were really trying to give you that scene, but it takes away because of those paint apps. I think they could have done something better to really give us that mud look. And like Spider-Kid mentioned, there are certain parts on the figure that do resemble that mud. However, I feel that it should have been more heavily incorporated on the chest and front torso of the body. Maybe we could have got some sculpting of mud, you know, with textures. I think that would have been great. However, the accessories definitely make up for all that stuff. So if you're like me and didn't have Grogu on a pram, then this is a great set to pick up. Not to mention to give you a different Mandalorian or your first Mandalorian. Either way, he's still a very cool figure.
So I'm gonna go ahead and give this guy a rating of...
Great.
Now, again, I think the figure itself, like the joints and articulation, is really fine. I like all the sculpting on it. I like how you can sometimes and sometimes not tell about the mud, but it's mostly focused more on the figure itself, like on the paint specifically, that I give him a grade. Because again, now looking at it now, I can kind of make out mud around the hands, some of the armor, and then some of the boots also. But even still, it took me a while to find that, and normally for normal figures, it wouldn't be that hard to try to find. For the child himself, I think it's really cool. I like the little pod he comes in. I do love how they actually sculpted and painted everything inside. And I do like the face on him. I only wish that the hands could move a lot more better. And I do wish that they could have given you an option to remove the head, so you could have put it on the deluxe version of the child himself.
And that's going to do it for our review on the Mandalorian and Grogu from the show The Mandalorian. I'm Steel Wolf.
And Spider-Kid.
Continue collecting, and remember, stay casual.